Hello, this is Baldo Spirito, and in this video I will teach you how to play Trade Interdiction New Zealand in multiplayer. Now, New Zealand is probably the weakest country that is played by a human in multiplayer games. It only has 5 factories, 1 military and 4 civilians. It starts with 2 tech slots and it essentially has no manpower. So at first glance, for a new player, it's hard to tell what you can do with this country. I mean, it seems like really weak. But there is something you can do that is useful for your team, and that is detecting enemy ships. Especially enemy convoys for convoy raiding purposes. Now, before I get into the guide, let me talk a bit about multiplayer strategy in general. A lot of new players make the mistake of using generic templates for every nation. For example, one of the most generic templates is the 7-2 infantry with 7 infantry, 2 artillery. Now, a lot of people try to build this division with every country they play. They think of their country as in an individual sense and do not take into account the team strategy. I mean, this is the wrong way to play organized multiplayer. I mean, you have to understand your country is just like one country in your faction, and you should think of your faction as a whole when you are thinking about strategy. Of course, your faction leader is going to determine the overall faction strategy, but the simple idea is that every country should look at the weaknesses and strengths of their country and decide what to do based on that and specialize in a role. Now, there is no reason to do 7-2 with New Zealand because 1, you don't have enough manpower to field enough divisions, and 2, Australia can do that much better because he has a better high command for that. So with New Zealand, we want to do something that does not require a lot of manpower and that does not require a lot of industry. And the perfect thing to do is to build convoy detection fleets. Basically, I will talk a bit more on the mechanics of that, but the simplest thing is to look for is the surface detection stat on the ships. Now, submarines have the best surface detection stats if you check all the surface detection stats of the ships. So submarines have the best surface detection, and in addition, submarines also get more bonus to surface detection if you go for the trade interdiction right side doctrine. You get a lot of submarine surface detection bonuses here, as you see. You have 20%, 25, 25, and another 10 here. So you can basically get huge amounts of surface detection by going this route and building submarines, which is going to help you detect enemy convoys, and then your allies can kill the convoys. So basically this is going to be our idea. Now let me talk a bit more about the mechanic now. Now you can see your let me turn the AI off because I'm gonna tag back to New Zealand. I don't want the AI to do something. Now the surface detection of a fleet is determined by the average surface detection of the ships in it, plus some other bonuses which I'm gonna show now. Now let's put it on a mission and let it run a bit. Now if you hover over here, you click and then hover over the channel force, which is the fleet we have there. You see your surface sub detection chance there, which is currently the surface detection chance is currently 5.9% and the sub detection chance is 7.8%. Now, for our purposes in this video, sub detection doesn't matter, so I will focus on surface detection. But I mean, they all they both have the same base modifiers, and the difference between the surface and sub comes from the equipment detection. Basically, destroyers and light cruisers will have more sub detection, and submarines will have more surface detection. Now you see here, you got two additive modifiers on top of the 4% base, which comes from radars and air superiority. And then you have multiplicative modifiers on top of that, which is regions coverage and equipment detection. Now region coverage is going to stabilize a bit more if you let it run a bit more. Now you see here we have 12% surface detection chance. Now since this is an average of the fleet, it's actually better to take only submarines and then convoy raid with them when you want to detect enemy ships. Again, let's wait a bit for the region coverage to stabilize. Yeah, and by the way, the region coverage multiplier is like based on how large the region is. It's easier to raid like smaller sea zones like the English Channel compared to like large sea zones like the Mid-Atlantic Gap. So here you see the submarines alone have 17.7% surface detection compared to the 12% surface detection of like a mixed fleet. And this air superiority is actually very important as well to increase your base bonus. If you put a lot of planes, I think it goes up to 20 or 25%. You can test that yourself. I don't need to do that here, but air superiority is pretty important. But even without air superiority, if you get huge amounts of equipment surface detection, you can even rate like big regions without air superiority, like Central Atlantic Gap, like the Demerara Plain. And this is, by the way, on the convoy route of Germany to Venezuela. So you can, for example, raid the oil trade of Germany if you have very good submarines with good trade interdiction. And this is what we're going for with this New Zealand. Okay, now let's tag back to New Zealand. Now, how should we go for this? Obviously, we want to take submarines and trade interdiction. So let's start with that. Oh, by the way, when you start with some other doctrine and you want to switch to another doctrine, first take a second, start the research on a second tech of the doctrine you currently have, and then switch to trade interdiction. That's going to give you the first doctrine for free, and then start taking the submarine route. Okay, in terms of industry and focuses, we want to take focuses that give us additional civilian factories most of all, because I mean, like usually this is a good idea for any country, but with miners it's like proportionally even better, because we have so few civilians that getting more like a 2-3 more with focuses is essentially like going to increase our industry output by 50%. I mean, we have 4 civilians. If we get 2 more, that's the 50% increase on our civilian count. So these industry focuses are going to be very important for us and should be generally the first things we go for. In addition, we want to do some submarine techs, and we have one focus of that here. This gives us 100% reduced ahead of time penalty. This says or, but actually it gives you both. Basically, it gives you minus 100% ahead of time plus 50% tech for one tech though. Like it gives you both for one tech. And my plan is to use this focus to take the 44 submarines eventually. But I don't need to go for it right now, because I have to take the first 3 without a focus first. And then I should take this focus to take the 44 submarine. So before that, I'm gonna focus on my like research thrust and industry, and then I will go for the submarine effort when I need to. So now the biggest industry focuses are like here in Think Big, the Bureau of Industry. But going for Think Big requires like these 3, which are not very important for us currently. So I think I'll go for Bureau of Industry first. then maybe the text lot, and then maybe think big. Yeah, that seems to be like a good way to go. Now on this side of the focus tree, we don't have too useful stuff, at least for the start. I mean, this can be good like later on with the factory output and stuff, but I mean, it's like not a very strong bonus. And here we have some tech sharing stuff. These are not like too important. We have some building slot additions in this side of the tech tree that can be good after we run out of build slots, but we won't need them very early either. So let's first start here. Now in terms of what to build, I could start docks immediately, but I think I want to build like 1 or 2 civilians first, because I want to maximize my build. Like I want to fill all the build slots. It looks like we will, but we're gonna get some additional build slots when we take like some concentrated industry, and we will also get like I said from the focus of some additional slots. So I think it's fine to build like 1 or 2 civilians before we start the docks. Okay, this seems okay now. Oh, let's look at the steel issue. Now, we have only 1 factor on InfEquip, and we have -2 steel, which hurts our production efficiency a bit. But it's not worth buying this resource here, because we're basically have only -10% resource penalty on 1 military factory. Basically, not buying this resource is losing us 0.1 military factory. But buying that resource is going to cost us 1 civilian factory. Now, if you take from inside the faction, like I said, you should think of your entire faction as like a single entity. If you buy from within your faction, you're not actually going to lose the whole 1 civilian, but you will lose the civilian to the consumer goods of who you are buying from. Let's see, United Kingdom. How much consumer goods does he have? He has 30% consumer goods because he's on civilian economy, which means sending this one, buying this 1 factory from UK means our faction is going to be losing 0.3 civilian factories, and not buying it means our faction is losing 0.1 military factory. So in this case, not buying is the correct choice. So we will not buy. Okay, now let's start running it.